Welcome in. Last call. I can't see you, but beside me is Jace Hodge with Caden Colford. It's a little bright, but we'll take the Eclipse classes off, say happy Totality Day, and then get right into things on Last Call. Well, you might have heard the news a couple weeks ago. Right here in the Circle City, you have a coaching change from right here at Uindy. Paul Corsaro heading across town to soon to be IU Indianapolis. I sat down with him, had a quick discussion to get his thoughts on the move and what it means for him and his career, while also reminiscing on his time at Uindy.
We've really been busy, trying to build a roster, fill a staff, fill a schedule. There's a lot that goes into it. It's been not a lot of sleep, but it's been fun. I wake up every day very reinvigorated, excited for the task at hand, and I love working here. The people here are just really, really great in terms of everyone's lending in a helping hand. There's not a day goes by that someone doesn't walk by my office and, ask how things are going and, how can we help. And the support from the administration has just been second to none. And just the camaraderie here, you can tell they really have something special.
You're inheriting a program that went 6-26 last year. The last time the program saw 10-plus wins was in the 2018-2019 season. So obviously, as a coach, that's a lot to bear on your shoulders. How do you change the program from a culture standpoint and a basketball standpoint?
I think you look at what we did at Uindy, proved to know how to build a winner in the city of Indianapolis, and that's what we intend to do here. The same type of family atmosphere that we had in my program there, we will continue on here with IU Indianapolis. In terms of, I don't really care what happened in the past. That's in the past. I'm only looking forward in the present, and we will be successful, bottom line. That's all I've ever done, all I've ever known. It's all I've ever been a part of, and that's going to continue here. And it starts with me and that belief, and it's going to trickle down to my staff, my student athletes, the people here on campus, and into the Indianapolis community as well.
That was Coach Corsaro. Safe to say he's excited for his next step, and we're excited to see what he does with the Jags at IU Indy. But while we're on college basketball, how about this women's bracket? What a conclusion. Some of the best basketball that we've seen in a long time. The undefeated South Carolina to take on Iowa, and possibly the best women's college basketball player ever, or we'll scratch the women's part, possibly the best college basketball player ever in Caitlin Clark. And just look at what went on. She opened the game on a tear, Jace. We got exactly what we wanted in this first half.
It's exactly what you expected from Caitlin Clark. In this big game, this is the last game of her Iowa career. She came out lights out. But South Carolina, being undefeated, being the best team by far in the nation, they weathered that storm. They got back in the game, and they did what the Gamecocks do.
It's up and down the lineup. If you ask me, as South Carolina takes the win here, the better team won.
100%.
The better team won. They go 9 deep in all 9 showed-out. Camila Cardoso, what a game from her.
And she had a great season all year long. One of the best boards in the country, on the boards. And she can score as well when she has to do so. Obviously hit that big 3 in the conference tournament that got them a conference tournament win. But she is a great player. She is a great big for the Gamecocks. But you look up and down the lineups, like you said, the Gamecocks just have all that talent. Iowa, they have, the top tier talent, the Caitlin Clarks, the Hannah Solkis, the Kate Martins. But South Carolina just up and down from 1 to 10, really just dominant.
Cardoso, a career high 17 rebounds for her alongside 15 points. South Carolina led, 36 bench points to 0 for Iowa. They led by 15 plus in the rebounding category. So South Carolina, coached by Dawn Staley, a masterclass from them. They put the exclamation points on a literally perfect season, Jace. A perfect season.
I think it's the 10th time or 9th time it's ever been done in women's history. 6 times it was UConn. We know what UConn has done in the women's game, but for the first time it was the Gamecocks who were undefeated and well-deserved. Dawn Staley, one of the best coaches the game has ever seen. 100% in the college game.
And South Carolina is going to take this, but we're seeing pros all over the court.
Yep.
Cardoso just declared for the draft. Caitlin Clark declared for the draft. And she'll be right here in Indianapolis. Ticket prices are already skyrocketing.
She isn't even officially on the team yet. Everyone knows with the Fever having the first overall pick that they're going to take Caitlin Clark. She's a generational talent. She's the best talent we've ever seen in the women's game as a draft prospect. The Fever, like you said, those ticket prices are higher than the Pacers tickets right now.
Absolute cinema in the women's bracket this year. As we move over to the men's brackets, the Final Four matchups, well, I think we saw the 2 Goliaths come out of those. as we start with Alabama versus UConn. You could say really the same thing about UConn that we said about South Carolina, just their entire lineup.
It was a very similar game. Alabama, they're a phenomenal shooting team. They started out the game lights out. They had UConn on the ropes for a minute, but UConn being that great team, just up in the lineup, because they don't have like stars per se, but they have great role players.
And I think the fact that you say that they don't have stars, they have so much talent, but this is a new find that we saw last year. They don't have that gained recognition because a lot of this is their first year playing basketball together. But you wouldn't think so. I mean, the chemistry, the way these guys move on offense.
And that's a credit to now Coach of the Year, Dan Hurley. This guy has done a great job with UConn.
Guy's crazy, too.
He's one of the best coaches in the game right now.
The guy might be a lunatic, but hey, if that's what it takes to send Alabama home and send yourself to the national championship, I'm sure that's what you take. Obviously, Clingan is going to be a matchup for Zach Edey, but even other than him, as we look to Stephon Castle, 21-5.
And Cam Spencer, the point guard, he's a great player as well. He's a great distributor, a great scorer when he needs to. UConn, phenomenal basketball team, be the first team to go back-to-back since Florida in 06-07.
And I mean, a lot of credit to Alabama, right?
100%.
You have guys like Grant Nelson dropping 19 and 15, and I think if you don't have Clingan, don't have Edey, don't have Burns, I mean, he's right outside that top three in terms of bigs in the tournament.
And for Bama, with under head coach Nate Oates, this was an interesting season. Compared to the last two seasons where they were, I think, a 1 or 2 seed at one point, those were better teams that he had under him. But this was the team that made the Final Four. So I find it interesting. It's how March works out sometimes. But they were a great shooting team, and they were just hot when when the time was right. And they were still pretty hot in that game. But UConn, it's UConn, and they're going to be back in the natty again.
Well, Purdue, they might just be Purdue as they knocked off North Carolina State. Obviously, it was an 11th seed versus a 1 seed. The 1 seed gets the win in Purdue, but it was absolutely dominant. This guy right here did exactly what everyone thought he was going to do against who a lot of people consider to be the second best big in the country, at least in the tournament, in DJ Burns. Burns had 8 points.
Yep. Burns just looked out of it. Zach Edey defensively just had him on locks. And, NC State, they fought. They fought harder than I've seen any team fight Purdue in a while. But they just couldn't shoot the ball. They were having trouble shooting the ball. They couldn't get going. And they had a 4-minute stretch where they guarded Zach Edey better than any team I've ever seen guard him. They had Middlebrooks, like their backup small forward, guarding Edey, and he did a great job the entire time. But still, NC State just could not knock down shots. DJ Horns was the only player that could get going from scoring.
And this was the first game that I thought Zach Edey was really going to be tested at the big man spot. But as we see here, I mean, even dishing out the guys like Fletcher Lawyer, this guy went to work.
And that's the difference with Purdue now. They have the shooters. They have the Fletcher Lawyer. They have the Mason Gillis. They have the Lance Jones. He's the transfer from Southern Illinois. He has been one of their main reasons why they're now in the national championship game, because he can shoot lights out. He had a great game against NC State.
And here's the thing about Purdue. I don't think that they played their best game.
They did not.
By any stretch of the imagination. Braden Smith had 1 bucket the entire game, 1 3-point basket.
That was one of the worst games I've seen him play in a while. He was turning the ball over. He had those 2 backcourt violations, really weird in the first half. He just could not get going from the floor. I mean, he had those usual, 6-7 assists, but he still turned it over the same amount of times.
But for an All-American honorable mention, I'm expecting this guy to come back in a fury. Him, Edey's going to be there against Clingan. That is going to be a matchup. I mean, as we look into Purdue versus UConn, my matchup that I look at is obviously Clingan versus Edey.
Yep.
I said this about Burns, right? Burns, but I think he's a little smaller and he's not nearly as athletic as Clingan. I think that gives Edey problems.
It will, 100% will. I mean, Clingan, great player. In this tournament, he's been one of the best players all tournament long. And he's a great big. He's going to give Edey some matchup problems if he can stay strong defensively.
For Lance Jones, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer at Purdue, and obviously Zach Edey, what would it take to knock off a Goliath in UConn?
They got to be able to shoot the ball. If they cannot shoot the ball like they have been all season long, they're going to struggle to even be within 10 in this game. Because UConn, they've been that dominant. They've won every tournament game by 14 plus in the last 2 seasons. UConn's not going to let them off easy. Purdue's not going to blow them out by any stretch of the imagination, but Purdue has to be able to shoot the ball with those guards, that small forward that has been shooting well all year long. If they can shoot the ball, they'll give UConn a test.
And who's going to defend the basket? Obviously, both of these teams very solid defensively. Both of these teams can play that grit and grind kind of basketball. I wouldn't be surprised to see a game that ends up 115, 120 total points.
Yep.
I mean, low scoring like this NC State game, because you have two squads that aren't necessarily the fastest team in college basketball, both great in half-court
Well, I think
sets.
this is the matchup everyone wanted to see. It's the two best teams in the nation all year long, minus maybe Houston, but 100% these two teams have been two of the top three all year long. And this is the kind of matchup you want to see if you're a fan of basketball in general.
March Madness has led up to this. It's going to be Purdue taking on UConn in the NCAA championship tonight. And Phoenix, Jace, I need a pick.
UConn.
Give me Purdue.
Oh.
Purdue is going to beat UConn. Zach Edey, I think, cemented that he is an NBA player. He's an NBA talent. We'll see if he can guard the pick and roll once he gets to that level. But Zach Edey's getting drafted, and I think he proves that he's the best big man in college basketball.
Well, we'll see. Well,
we'll move to the pros up next. That was some college basketball discussion on Last Call. We'll be back for some primetime pick 'em.
Emma Donnan, elementary and middle school. Discover the Donnan difference. A school where you can celebrate others. Come together as a community. Be a part of a learning environment where students and teachers are appreciated. Emma Donnan, a culture that can't be beat, that's going onward together. A school filled with love. Emma Donnan.
I love my school.
So the overall mission here at Flannel House Indy is to help with the development and growth, the self-efficiency and self-sufficiency of the near northwest side of Indianapolis. When the Double Eights closed in the area, that left the near northwest side a food desert. So Brandon Cosby, the executive director of Flannel House, started with the Flannel House Farms, where they grow fresh produce organically for the neighborhood around. And then later on down the line, Cleo's came about. So we're here to help with the sustainability of getting fresh food at cheap prices to the locals around. Black owned, black ran. That's the gist of Cleo's for the most part.
How about those Nuggets this year, Jace? It sounds like a chip to me.
they ain't going back to back. Ain't no one getting past Boston. They got a super team, man.
All right, Jace, check up. This is Last Call. Jace and I head-to-head on football, baseball, basketball, and everything Uindy.
Mondays, 6 p.m. Uindy TV on YouTube and Xfinity Stream Channel 1096.
Caden Colford, Jace Hodge, Last Call, and one of my personal favorite segments on the show is we move to the NBA season now, the Primetime Pick 'em. If you don't know the rules, we go through every primetime game throughout the week, and then, well, me and Jace go back and forth, say who's going to win, and then we tally up the records at the end, and we see what happens. As we start here with our basketball week on Tuesday, first matchup, the C's will take on the Bucks in Milwaukee, and I'm looking at these two squads in somewhat different spots. The Celtics, I don't feel like they have anything to play for at this point. I feel like the Celtics can really sit back. If the Bucks keep it close through three quarters, the Bucks will take it easy. I do not see the Celtics coaching staff keeping out Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, their starting five, to win a regular season game that has zero meaning.
The Bucks, they cannot win right now. They have been ice cold, to say the least. They've lost, I think, 4 of their last 5. They just lost last night. I don't see any way the Bucks win this game against Boston. Boston, yes, they have probably clinched that 1 seed. They're locked in, but they're still trying to play the best basketball at this time. Because the longer they keep playing this good basketball, the more they can take that into the playoffs, especially against the Bucks, who they might see even in the Eastern Conference Finals. So give me the Celtics to win this one. They're the best team in basketball. They're not going to lose this one.
I agree with you. They're the best team in basketball. So if all they have to do is hold on to a 15-point lead, I think they do exactly that. I think naturally they're more talented. They match up better with the Bucks, which they show in a regular season game, or regular season game, which say C's are probably going to take it 4 to 5 times. But Milwaukee in this one. Now as we move to the second game, move to the Western Conference, Warriors will head to LA to take on the Lakers. So Jace, I'll turn to you this time and see two teams that, well, Warriors just want to make the play-in, and the Lakers are trying to avoid the play-in, creep into that 5th spot, perhaps. Who do you think?
The Lakers have recently hopped up from, I think, 9 to 8th, so they're trying to avoid that 9-10 playing game, especially. I mean, even for them, 7-8 would be better than, that 9-10 playing game. And they're playing some decent basketball right now, the Lakers. The Warriors have been up and down, and as they have been, the last season or two. So give me the Lakers in this one. They're playing better basketball right now. Yeah,
Lakers are actually 8-2. In their last 10, and I'm right there with you. I think Golden State, I don't think they match up with the Lakers very well. I think Anthony Davis has a field day going for 30+. I'm glad we agree on that one. Lakers will take it at home against the Warriors. Now we'll go to Wednesday, where the Mavericks will play the Heat in Miami. And I got to say, the Mavericks have been hot. We saw that duo.
They have.
We saw the picture right with Luka with his bloody knee standing next to Kyrie Irving, and they're dropping like 50 and 40 apiece after an amazing win.
Sheesh.
And I say all that so I can say the Heat are going to win at home against the Mavericks. And the Heat are going to do exactly what they've done in the past 3-4 years of the NBA season, come back when it matters, and make it work against the Mavericks at home.
I disagree. The Heat, they just lost the Pacers last night. Difficult game. They just don't look like they have in previous, Aprils. So give me Dallas in this one. Dallas, Luka, Kyrie, that duo, like you mentioned. What they did last night against the Rockets, insanity. I mean, Luka's getting 35-point triple-doubles every night. Kyrie's dropping 40 points. I mean, how are you meant to stop that? And the Heat, with the Mavericks being at home as well, playing better basketball right now, the Heat are still fighting to get, out of that play-in and jump Indiana. It's going to be hard to do so now, though, that they're down in 8th.
Yeah, they're sitting in that 8th spot, and in front of them, 76ers and Pacers. Mm-hmm. But I just think the Heat, especially in their front court matchups, you have two athletic bigs in Gafford and Bam Adebayo. I think Bam could have a really good game against the Mavericks, and I don't see how they guard that. But also, if the Mavericks shoot how they have been,
it's Luka and Kyrie. And it seems like Luka and Kyrie have really found that chemistry with each other in these last 10 or so games. They've really figured out how to play basketball with each other, the Mavericks, and they look like a possible Western Conference contender if they can make a run here.
A wild card game, you might say, as we stay on Wednesday, back to the Western Conference.
For the 1 seed.
And the Timberwolves as they play the Nuggets. Jace, what are you thinking between these two?
This is for the 1 seed, basically. These two teams are right atop the Western Conference standings. The Thunder have fallen a little bit behind in the Western Conference, so it's kind of these two teams for the 1 spot. I'm going to take the team that's at home. I'm going to take the team that's been better the last season. I'm going to take the defending NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets.
Well, I mean, as you creep closer to the playoff time, experience matters more and more. I agree with you, but the Timberwolves at the big man spot, you look at the Nuggets, and a lot of what they do is dominating with their 4 and their 5. Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic is going to work on these smaller defenders. You don't have that against Minnesota. You have Rudy Gobert, a depoy candidate, probably Wemby if we want to get in the conversation, but definitely a candidate there, and Rudy Gobert. And you have Karl Anthony Towns. It's a bigger lineup than
I still agree with you, but the Nuggets, they've won the NBA championship. They have the experience. We're now down to playoff time, the last 4 games of the season. This is for the 1 seed. With Denver being at home, it's going to be a raucous crowd. Jokic is going to do his usual thing. Jamal Murray, he's a great point guard. He's going to do his thing. I just think the experience, overtakes anything else that Minnesota can do.
Timberwolves are protecting the 1 spot. The Nuggets, they're going to creep into that 1 spot. I think the defenders of that 1 seed. We'll take it. But I think it'll be a great game. I think this will be a fun game to watch. Obviously,
100%.
Jokic, depending on how you view his game, can either be the least fun to watch or the most fun. I think he's the most fun, just throwing something over his head and getting it to go. I mean, if it goes in, it goes in. But I also like watching Mr. Ant Edwards over on that Minnesota Timberwolves side. So I'm excited, very excited for that matchup as we move to Thursday. First, the Eastern Conference game. The New York Knicks will travel to Boston to take on the Celtics. And Jace, you're going to look at me funny because I have the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks
So you're
are
telling me
playing.
that you're picking against Boston twice in a row, a team that's barely lost any games this season?
Boston could literally throw out an entire G League team, still have the 1 seed, and
Yeah, but still, they still want to play
players.
that best basketball at this time because they're heading into that ton of playoff time. You know, they don't want to have a repeat of what's happened in previous years where they fall early in the playoffs because they just weren't ready.
Well, I like the way the Knicks are playing right now. Dante DiVincenzo looks good. He just sets, I think, a team record for threes made in a season. Jalen Brunson is continuing to do his thing as probably the best point guard, not probably, the best point guard in the East.
Yep, I can agree with that now.
Yeah, it's funny how that argument's kind of shifted since the All-Star break. But
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson, I think he goes to Boston. I think he goes to the Garden, gets it done.
I disagree once again. I
Understand.
just think Boston, I want to say this, I mean, it's the same song and dance, but they're the best team in the NBA. They're going to continue to play their best players so they're ready. So they're ready to go in the playoffs because they're going to get a tough matchup out of that playing game. I mean, it could be the Heat or the Sixers. In the Heat, when it comes to April, the Heat could be anybody. So they want to be prepared and ready. So they're going to play their best players, their stars, and they're going to take down their rival, the Knicks.
I would not mind a Heat-Celtics matchup
I don't think
to
anyone would.
start
I don't think anyone
the
would.
NBA playoffs. That would sound like a lot of fun. Moving to the Western Conference, Kings are at home against the Pelicans, and where we look at these two teams are Pelicans at 7th, the Kings at 8th, both trying to creep out of the play-in. They'd have to crack over the Suns at that point, who sit at 6th. Who are you thinking?
I've been very high on this team since last year. I love what they have going. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis. It's a great duo. Give me the Kings in this one at home. We know they have one of the best fan bases in the NBA at this time. With the beam, hit the beam. They're going to be hitting the beam against the Pelicans on Thursday, I should say.
Hit the beam. Sacramento is going to beat the Pelicans.
Finally, we agree again.
Yeah,
About time.
I think they're underperforming at this point.
They are.
But if the Kings want to get where we know that they can be, that I think any fan understands potential of this team, of where they could be, then I think they beat the New Orleans Pelicans pretty easily.
I like New Orleans. I like what they have with Zion, with Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. But the Kings at home are a different beast to me.
Exactly, at home, nonetheless. I feel like that is going to be a great game to watch. But I'd say an 8-10 point win for the Kings.
I'd agree.
Friday, Pacers and Cavs. In the East, Pacers at 6, Cavs at 5. And the Cavs are kind of falling off at this point.
They've gone from 3rd to 5th. I mean, they lost yesterday. They were up by 26 against the Clippers in LA, and they lost. They lost because Paul George decided to have a great game. And they fell from 3rd to 5th because of that loss. And now you look at 3rd through 6th in the East, separated by a game and a half.
But I'll tell you one thing about the Pacers. Pacers can't win a big game to save their life.
They just won a big game last night.
Well, they won one of them. Okay. Whatever you say.
They beat
Whatever
Boston
you
in the
say.
in-season tournament in Milwaukee
I
in the
don't
in-season
think they
tournament.
beat the Cavs. I don't think they beat the Cavs in
Okay.
Cleveland. I don't think that they have the defensive capabilities to do so because these two teams want to do the exact same thing. They want to run. They want to score. Cleveland does it better than anybody.
I think for the Pacers, this would be their ideal playoff matchup.
Really?
More than the Knicks, more than the Magic, because both of those two teams are very good defensively. Pacers struggle against defensive teams. I think the Pacers are the better team between these two squads.
You think they win a shootout?
Yes.
With the Cavaliers?
The Pacers are the best offensive team in the nation, in the NBA. So why wouldn't they win a shootout? I mean, as long as Halliburton plays okay. Halliburton has been really inconsistent since the All-Star break, like you said. Definitely falling behind Brunson in that East point guard debate. And once again, he only had 12 points last night against the Heat. And teams are now targeting him defensively.
That's what scares me.
Teams are targeting him defensively because they're going right at him because he's not a good defender. Halliburton is not a good defender at all.
The Pacers' weak spot is the strong spot offensively for the Cavaliers. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell against Tyrese Halliburton and maybe Andrew Nembhard, whoever steps into that
But they've been
spot.
banged up a lot recently, so I'm still thinking they're coming off injuries. The Pacers are beginning to get healthy now, obviously minus the loss of Mathurin earlier in the season. So I think the healthy team takes this one. This is a big game now for Indiana, especially for both these teams, trying to avoid that play-in game once again. And Indiana could jump as high as 3rd with 2 wins in a row.
Two more Friday spots. First, the Thunder will host the Bucks. And Jace, between these two squads, obviously Bucks second in the East, and the Thunder in the West are sitting at third. You think this could go either way?
I do, but once again, I think the Bucks are not playing good basketball right now, and I think they might even fall into third if the team makes a run like the Magic. The Thunder are the better team right now, as long as SGA plays and is healthy, because he didn't play against the Pacers a few nights ago. But they have Chet Holmgren, I love him. Josh Giddey, he can be a good guard at times. SGA, great player. Jalen Williams, they have a great team. The Bucks are not playing good basketball right now. Giannis has been banged up here and there. So give me the Thunder at home.
Yeah, Bucks, even though I say they're going to win against the Celtics, right? Just a week ago, they lost to a 13th seed, 14th seed.
They've been losing some really bad games recently.
And a 15th seed. And you're going to Oklahoma City with the roster that you just mentioned. I'm with you here. The Thunder are going to take it against the Bucks. Last game to wrap up the Friday night slate. Still have two more after that. But the Kings at home again against the Suns. A little bit different of a matchup this time. This isn't exactly the Pelicans.
And this is the team that's right ahead of you in sixth place for the playoff spot. So this is a big game for the Kings to try to jump back into the playoffs.
And I think they do it. I think the Kings just a better defensive squad than the Suns, and I think the Suns, once they go to the bench, I think they're toast.
Yeah, they are, 100%. They have no depth. It's those top 3-4 players, and then it's just a big drop-off on the bench. The Kings have that depth. They have some great players off the bench, so light that beam for a second time this week.
Let's just hit the beam one more time.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Let's just hit the beam. Sunday, last two games as we near the end of our slate for this week. The Lakers will go to New Orleans to play the Pelicans. And Jace, is it showtime?
Pelicans are going to win this one.
Why? How?
See, listen. If we're talking about trying to win this pick 'em, I already picked the Lakers to win once, the Pelicans to lose one, so I even and out pick the Pelicans to win this one. Makes sense, right? Both teams go 1-1 this week.
Lakers are going to win this game against the Pelicans. Lakers are going to win this game against the
Pelicans
because
are
they
a
have
lot
LeBron
better.
James on their team.
They're a lot better than the Warriors defensively. They match up better with the Lakers than the Warriors do.
Yeah, 100%. But you're betting against LeBron in April. Lakers have won 8 of their last 10. Yeah, I am betting against
LeBron in April. And so what?
What has LeBron ever done in April for you to bet against LeBron in April?
Lose like 5 finals.
The finals! Jace, listen to yourself. He's lost like 5 finals. Yeah. We're in the regular season. How do you get to the finals, Jace?
LeBron is 40 years old at this point. He's bound to regress.
He's 39.
39 years old. Ooh, scary.
LeBron at 39 is still arguably a top 7, top 6 player in the league right now.
I 100% agree, but I'm trying to win this pick 'em, so I'm going to pick against him for one time. So let me have it.
Okay, one time, I'll let it slide.
There you go.
Last game of the slate, Timberwolves will host the Suns. 2 teams that we've already kind of broke down in our slate. But I'm taking the same team I took earlier, and what are you thinking?
I am going to agree. The Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, love him. Cat, love him. Rudy Gobert, I love this Timberwolves squad up and down. Obviously, I picked against them because they're playing a better Nuggets team, but they face the Suns here. Like I said, they have no bench. That drop-off once again is huge. The Timberwolves, they got this one in the bag.
It's just really difficult for me to see the Suns succeed, because for the Suns to succeed, you need that big 3.
Yep.
Right? You need all of them to play well, because someone steps out of the game.
They
Kevin
score
Durant
like
steps
80% of the points anyways. I mean, it's KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, and that's basically it.
Timberwolves are going to take this one against the Suns, but how about taking a look at where we sit?
I don't want to.
Record-wise, boom.
Sheesh.
Boom. Talk about knowing ball. 16-10. I think for the first time ever in Pick 'em, whether it's the NFL Pick 'em, the Monday Football Forecast that me and Graham had. I always said there was a comeback. You had to wait a couple months, but here we are.
It's not over. It's not over until the fat lady sings, they say.
That's what they say.
She ain't singing yet, and I mean, we've picked 13 games this week, and there's a lot of different ones. So I mean, if things fall my way, I could be winning next week.
That's if things fall your way.
I mean, and they are going to fall my way.
16-10 feels like a really good record.
I congratulate you on your early win. Hey, you haven't won nothing yet.
Well, thanks, Jace. Thanks. I
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
In terms of MLB action, the Cubs, they went 2-1 against the Dodgers in their last series. The Reds went 1-2 against the Mets. So the 2 local teams doing okay. They're both over 500, which I don't know if we expected. We'll get into them more deeply, break down what they do well, what they do not do well, and obviously we'll be back with more pick-ems and have some coverage on the national championship game tonight. Who won, how'd they do it, all that jazz. Happy Totality Day.
Yeah.
That's what they call Happy Totality Day. Caden Colford, Jace Hodge on Last Call.